listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, and welcome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you, and I'm glad that you're here with us. I know that we got a great show planned for today, and everything should be up and running and working. The only thing that I'm worried about today is the sound of our microphone on CKLU, which we're live on right now. CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio. We're also streaming at cklu.ca. And you can also catch us at Facebook Live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube Live at youtube.com/Sudbury News. For the time being, not sure how long that's going to last with the new Online Media Act. Our Bill C-11, Bill C-18. Looks like it's doing a good job of getting rid of any news on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Google. So we'll see if this is going to keep going or not, but so far so good. Yeah, we'll just keep going as long as it can go. We're grateful for the platforms as they are at the moment to give us the opportunity to have the show as long as it's going to run. So with that, we got a great show planned for you today. It's Monday, August the 21st. I can't believe it. The summer is almost over. Already, it seems like it just began. It's crazy, actually. So we got a lot of stuff for you today.
We all know that Canada.
No, that was, I guess that answers my question.
We all know
now.
that Canada.
Okay, that's something I'm going to be sharing a little bit later, but YouTube has this feature where when you go to the beginning of the video, it has to play automatically for some bizarre, strange reason. Not sure why, but let's just go like that, and then hopefully that kiboshes that. Anyways, we got some people joining us already, so we're looking forward to get going and talking about all the things that we have to. This morning with the website, it was working this weekend. So I'm like, oh, good. Website's back up and running. And then this morning I came in and it's there's the same error again. It's almost like the internet's playing games with me, but that's fine. I can take a joke. It's okay. We have other ways to talk about the news as we kind of try and get our bearings with all this new stuff coming up and having conversations with y'all about the issues that we find important around our city and around our country and our world we live in. Let's try and make sense of a couple things today. Have a little bit of humor while we're at it, and let's have some weather. We'll be back with some good mornings, salutations, and much, much more right after this. Very interesting. Extremely interesting. Your Sudbury weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. It's currently 11 degrees Celsius. It's partly cloudy. Today we can expect everything went really wonky. It's interesting. Today we can expect a mix of sun and cloud. High of 22, UV index 8 or very high. Tonight partly cloudy. Low of 11. Tuesday, tomorrow, cloudy, becoming a mix of sun and cloud late in the morning. High of 23, humidex 25, UV index 8 or very high. So let's see what this next page is going to look like. Yeah, it's going to look like that. So we'll find out Wednesday, looking a little forward into the future. It's cloudy, high of 20. Thursday, 30% chance of showers, 22. Friday, night, high of 19, 40% chance of showers. So far, it's predicting that Saturday and Sunday will be sunny and it will be 20 and 22. But we'll have to see when the time actually comes. Look at your satellite. Many clouds in and around the Great Lakes, all kind of like from the west all the way to the east. The only clearing is really a small patch coming towards us. So we'll get some clearing. But other than that, it's the clouds for the next couple of days with some rain for the week. Looks like it's going to be a cloudy week anyways. For those on the radio trying to describe what the satellite looks like. But that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, much, much more right after this. Okay, and we are back. So thanks for being with us. Those who like being with us and those who don't, who are still with us for some reason. We're not sure. But it's okay. This is a place where it's all, literally, it's the truly all-inclusive show. Not the one that says it is, but really isn't. Just to be kind of politically correct. So we are got a few people on this morning. Just want to give a shout out to. Good morning, Judy. Thanks for being with us. Much appreciated. Thanks for being with us. It's Monday. I'm really tired, by the way. I don't know about you. Just a very tiring weekend. Good morning, Monique. Good morning, Sudbury. Belinda says good morning. It's not the load that breaks you down. It's the way you carry it. Oh, that's good advice for me. Feeling the weight of the weekend. So maybe I just need to carry it a little differently. Good morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us. And David says, did I miss the disclaimer or are you doing it anymore? No, I didn't say a disclaimer. I say it at different various times of the show. Sometimes I don't say it at all. But if that's your favorite part of the show and you missed it, the views on this show, including any of those, including the one I just mentioned, are that of the people themselves and not those necessarily of Laurentian University, its staff or faculty, or that of CKLU's, anybody, volunteers or anyone who are employed by CKLU, on the board of CKLU, anyone who's involved with CKLU. They're that entirely of my own or those that are commenting on the show or any guests that I have. Everybody takes responsibility for their own words and their own actions, and they don't necessarily reflect that of Laurentian University or that of CKLU. All right, so Anne Marie, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us. And Vin, yeah, welcome, Dave. We're all here for your show, LOL. Yeah, it just this is the show where you are able to share your views on the news each and every morning, and this is a good day for news if you are looking forward to some call it an eyesore on Paris Street, some call it a work of art, but it's the old General Hospital, and it's basically adorned in rainbow colors with butterflies on it and smashed windows and various. The building is a decrepit building, but it's painted, and now there's graffiti all over it and stuff. So not sure what to make of it now. But anyways, City Council's optimistic that Panoramic Properties will pull through. The City of Greater Sudbury's elected officials appear optimistic. This is coming from Sudbury.com, the next couple stories we're going to be talking about. They appear optimistic. Something will finally happen at the long vacant Paris Street Hospital property. So Ward 4 Councillor Pauline Fortune said, I am hopeful and excited that the first steps are finally underway for this long-anticipated development and that the developer appears ready to make an investment of this magnitude in our city. I think it is a vote of confidence in the future of our city, and I'm looking forward to being a part of the council that works with staff, the developer, and other stakeholders to move this project forward. Ward 6 Councillor Rene Lapierre credited Panoramic Properties' plans for the site as being potentially transformational for the city. Greater Sudbury is in a state to leap from average-sized city to a large city, Lapierre said, as a member of the Planning Committee of City Council. I look forward to seeing the formal application with details and staff recommendations. Earlier this month, Panoramic Properties released a few details regarding their plans for development of the old St. Joe's Health Center property on Paris Street, including preliminary drawings. I'm just going to see if, for some reason, I did have those drawings before, and here they are. So if we wanted to have a look at them, you know what the hospital looks like currently, and I think this looks a little better than what we have currently. You know, there's several buildings planned on the property, and this is just an artist's rendering of what they look like from different angles, different possibilities of buildings. It looks like quite a few for sure. So I think that's good news as far as I'm concerned. Something had to be done, and that was the original plans anyways. And we need housing, don't we? We need extra housing. Now, will it be affordable for most people? That would be the question one might have to ask. So here, okay, so not sure if people are having conversations. Oh, so Stephen's saying it's where my mother brought me into the world and where I held her hand as I bid her goodbye 40 years later. Yeah. And as many of us in Sudbury, I think, had similar experiences as well as most people. A good chunk of people were born there, and a good chunk of people also in their palliative time departed this world there as well. They should have incorporated the property tax into Bell Park. Money, money, money. Tall buildings to block the beautiful view of the lake. And some people feel that way as well. Got to be a little concerned when Valley councillors like Lapierre, Kerwin, and Jacobo start talking about transformational. Let things just be formational. Well, I think we're all in Sudbury's in the basket of radically transforming things. So we'll see where things like that lead. The Up Here Festival just took place in Sudbury. I don't know if any of you had a chance to take part in some of the things, but people of all ages flocked to downtown Sudbury over the weekend for the Up Here Urban Art and Music Festival, taking in family activities on Durham Street, listening to concerts, and checking out several newly painted murals. Up Here co-founder Christian Pelche spoke to Sudbury.com about the event after, leading us through the Porta Potty Party Portal. Say that 10 times fast. The Porta Potty Party Portal, which is literally a portal through a porta potty to the decorated alleyway next to the YMCA building. He admits the festival is a bit weird, but it was also wonderful, right? Adding that the festival tries to promote a feeling of discovery and the wonder of curiosity. You know, when you see a show and you're going for the headliner and you see this other act is coming up and you're blown away by them and you're like, what was that? He said. The Up Here Festival, which ran Friday to Sunday, hit a financial snag earlier this summer when it was revealed that their funding application to the province came up blank, having been scaled to zero from last year's $66,600. That's an interesting number, $66,600. But donations from Greater Sudbury citizens allowed the festival to go ahead with some of the programming it had been forced to cancel due to a funding shortfall. I mean, we're back in full force because of the community, because of Sudbury, Pelche said, but everyone showed up and everyone believes in this thing called Up Here. So yeah, if you had a chance to partake, I hope you had a good time. Sounds like it went well. And Sudbury is the capital of festivals, as far as I'm concerned. We got a lot of festivals. And if someone was advantageous out there, they could make a website, sudburyfests.ca, and just list all the festivals on there and their dates and links to all the websites. And that would be you could charge each festival, a little bit of money to make a website like that and promote them all. It wouldn't really be worth it, I don't think. Financially, it wouldn't. It would just be if you wanted to do it to help the city. It's not really the original plan was anymore, and that's for the hospital, I believe. There's twice as many units now on offer from the previous plans for the panoramic properties. After the city, that was Stephen, Dave says, after the city spent over $1 million on the gated parking lot, you would think they would at least have shown it in the picture. It's true. You could say, hey, we got one of the best parking lots in Northern Ontario, and promote it. I think one extra building and additional width and overall is about 30% taller. Interesting. Well, again, right, we are all in agreement that we do need housing, as our immigration is, our goals are super out of this world. And currently, we're in a crisis of housing already in Sudbury, and we have goals of bringing in all kinds of other people from around the world to be part of Sudbury. We need a place to live, right? So that's definitely an issue we have. One last comment, okay? So, Sudbury man guilty of possessing an illegally killed moose. So Henry Bergeron of Sudbury has pleaded guilty to unlawfully possessing an illegally killed moose, making a false statement to a conservation officer. He was fined a total of $3,000 for both offenses. In addition, his hunting license have been canceled, and he is prohibited from hunting in Ontario for a period of 1 year. Matthew Dixon of Wainfleet also pled guilty to hunting moose without a license and possessing an illegally killed moose. He was fined a total of $3,000 for both offenses and is also prohibited from hunting in Ontario for the period of 1 year. The court heard that on November 6, 2022, Dixon shot and killed a calf moose near the town of Albin on Highway 64. Dixon failed to purchase a moose hunting license. Bergeron, who was not actively party hunting, was contacted once the moose was killed and brought to the site to invalidate his calf moose tag. Bergeron made false statements to the officers claiming he had shot the moose. Justice of the Peace Holly Sharina heard the case in the Ontario Court of Justice in Sudbury on December 12, 2022 for matters involving Dixon, and on June the 28th for matters with Bergeron. So that's been going on for quite a long time, kind of old news at this point, but nonetheless, here's some current news. If you were hoping to take the kiddies to a Sudbury beach and hoping that the lifeguards would be there, it's coming to an end. Lifeguard season comes to a close in Greater Sudbury with summer moving towards autumn. Greater Sudbury's lifeguard season is coming to a close as of August 20th, so yesterday. So from now on, there are no lifeguards. Municipal beaches will no longer have lifeguard supervision. Use of beaches afterward is at your own risk, the city said in a media release. Greater City of Sudbury Council approved service levels. Service level is for 9 weeks of lifeguard supervision at 7 municipal beaches during the summer months. Lifeguards are generally post-secondary students who are returning to school. As per Life Saving Society, guidelines. Unsupervised beaches are equipped with a reaching pole, a ring buoy, and signage indicating lifeguards are no longer on duty for the balance of the season. So they are giving you some tools just in case you're going to be swimming at your own risk and just in case you encounter a problem. And one story here, I don't even know if it's worth mentioning, but more Ontario patients are choosing to see their doctors in person. Did you know that? This is on Sudbury.com's Good Morning Stories to Start Your Day segment. Go figure. People like to see the doctor in person rather than on the phone or virtually. I think that's kind of common sense that I would have thought that was the case. So let's see here. Am I going to kibosh this all together? Probably. Let's see. I don't even know what I was going to share at this moment, but could be that, could be this. We're not sure. But I just had a story on our Facebook page, which I did not load up this morning because really we don't have our stories on Facebook anymore. But I'll go to it nonetheless here. They're bringing back the speed trap cameras. You know, the red light cameras. So now we got the speed cameras as well. And there's a few comments on our page here I just wanted to look at. So I shared this from the Valley community page. And I wasn't able to share. I don't know why, but Valley community page, we weren't able to share their story. But so I just copied the picture and I shared it and I said, what do you think of these municipal speed trap cameras coming? So there's a few people who had different points of view on them. I just wanted to touch on those if I could. The way this kind of works is a little bit wonky. So I don't know, are you a fan of these speed trap cameras? You know, I remember I had to bring my daughter to the hospital. I went to pick her up a couple months ago. And coming on the way back from the hospital, I was just driving with traffic, out of sorts because of what I just went through, a little bit of trauma. And I was just driving with traffic. So, you know, when you do that, and went through a red light. My wife said, you went through a red light. I said, no, I didn't, because I went with another car. So I was like, well, he would have went through a red light too. So I get the ticket in the mail. And sure enough, the picture is two cars going through the red light, and it was on my left too. So in my peripheral, I was just driving with the traffic, just not paying attention. So it's my bad. It's my fault. I deserved it, I guess, and didn't know it. It just happened to be the light that they had the camera at. It could have been any old light, but lucky me, it had to be the light that had the camera on it. And $360, I think, after it was all said and done, $330. And they have a fee on there. So it was 200 and some odd dollars, and then they put a $50 just a fee on there too. Anyways, this particular one is going to have a fee as well. So even if you're going 1 kilometer over, you're going to get a bill in the mail to pay with a service charge attached to it as well. So there's all kinds of comments here. Cliff says, I don't usually have any complaints about fines breaking the law, but these speed cameras, as well as the red light cameras, are literally nothing but a profit engine. Not sure what the fine will be for these. If you're caught by the red light camera, it's only $45 fine and no points. Well, for me, it was 300 and some. Not even Greater Sudbury Police Service that runs them. All the data is processed in Toronto. I've also seen a story where someone was stopped in the right lane at the red lights, and the vehicle in the left lane went through the light. Since the car was stopped, partially blocking the view of the car going through the light, the system pinged the stopped car's plate, and they got a fine in the mail. They tried to fight it, but eventually were told, too bad, pay the fine or else. So yeah, this is... So what is the fine for the red light camera in Sudbury? $325 exactly. And that includes fees and whatever. And if you don't pay it, and it doesn't say, you get the ticket in the mail, and it doesn't say when you have to pay it by. So you're wondering, okay, when is this due? So I called the number and I said, when is this ticket due by? And they're very ambiguous with the whole thing. It's almost like it's not really legal, or this is the sense I'm getting, but they're putting it through and just hoping people just go along with it long enough that it sticks. I don't know. So they're kind of ambiguous. I said, when does this ticket have to be paid? It doesn't say a date on it. They said, okay, don't worry about it. I said, I'd like to make payments because I was really upset. Like $325. It's a lot of money. Anyways, so then they said, no, don't worry about it now. I know it doesn't say you have to pay it by any date. We're going to send you a letter with a bunch of red, bold stuff on it, and then you can call us and we'll make an arrangement so you can make payments. I just want to pay like $5 a month and just pay as little as possible for as long as possible, just out of spite. Anyways, so they said, wait till you get this other. Well, and the other letter came, I had $5 added to it. And then I called and they said, well, you got to come in, bring the ticket in. And we then make an appointment with the justice of the peace. And they determine whether or not they're going to allow you to make payments or not. And it's going to be a higher fee by the time they process all this. And I just, whatever. And I just paid it that day. So I don't know. It just doesn't feel good now if I'm driving and I'm 1 kilometer over a speed limit in an area and I'm going to get a ticket in the mail. It just, again, cameras everywhere. So they're used for speed now. What are they going to be used for in the future, right? So I don't know. I'm not for a surveillance state myself. I just wish you teach people correct principles and allow them to govern themselves. And you have police that we're paying out there that are there, you know, and it seemed like a pretty orderly society to me anyways, for many, many, many years. Sure, it's changing, but it's not because of regular everyday citizens. Just tinted plates and windows. Just got tinted plates and windows. Yeah, maybe there's a way to, I don't know. Can you tint your plates enough that it can't pick it up? And then if that's found out, do you get a ticket for that too? Hard to say. Yeah, I'm not a fan, like I said. So Big Brother is watching. Be prepared to pay for sure. A lot of people are for it, though, too, right? Being attentive behind the wheel is important. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. And I'm sure you can understand, too, right? You probably have done that once in your life where you weren't really, you're kind of just in autopilot for a second and you were thinking of something that was important while you were driving. And then, hey, wait a minute. So there's a web form that Trevor just shared with us about the plans in Hawaii. So you may want to check that out. I know that's on a lot of people's minds, the fires that have been going on, not only in Hawaii, but in Maui, but also in the Northwest Territories and in British Columbia, in Kelowna. A lot of similarities between these fires that have been going on too, right? Seem to be like smaller cities, like very important cities to their areas, but smaller. A lot of them only have one way out, so they're kind of similar. The fires started the same week, so that's kind of odd. And a lot of people losing their homes and their livelihoods, and it's pretty sad. And there's some questions about how they were started and how they're being handled altogether. We might have a little bit of that coming up later. Nullifying discretion for speeding. I was under the interpretation speeds were based on the average flow of traffic. Maybe the camera should be used to increase speed limits. And that's a lot of the things too. There's people going to be going overboard, right? So you don't want to get a ticket for 1 kilometer over. So you're going to go under the speed limit. You're going to go like 5 kilometers under, just so that way you don't get a ticket. And so I'm going to have to leave like, I don't know, an hour earlier for everything to go everywhere. I don't know. It's just, to me, I think speed things up, but be safe. And if you're going to do that in cities, make thoroughfares and things for people to get around, which Sudbury does have a few of those now which I appreciate, because you need to get around. You can't be holding people back. And I like the idea that the city now is refiguring their lights to make traffic flow better. But at the same time, these speed things are coming out. So we all know they had the lights timed so people could just, you couldn't get somewhere where you're going quickly. They could say it was for the reason of safety. It just felt like I was a rat in a cage all the time, just trying to get somewhere. But you would think they would want, but now that they're going to open up the lights, now they got the speed cameras. So, oh well, you're just going to go 20 kilometers through the city. Oh, great. You'll still take just as long to get somewhere as if the lights were all red. So I don't know. That's just me, just my take on things. So that's Sudbury in a nutshell for current news. And we do have a country, however, that's still doing stuff. And I found some interesting takes on what's going on abroad and the state of our economy. So I'm going to make a list of all the major issues that we got going on, and there's lots. There's lots. We talked about MAID on the show, the medical assistance in dying, and how that's going on. Our economies. We just came out of lockdowns and masks and mandates and things like that. So we're just coming fresh out of that. The economy, the inflation is going sky high, and we haven't seen the end of it yet because people's mortgages are going to become due. You negotiated a mortgage, let's say, you can get a 5-year mortgage, and let's say 5 years ago you negotiated it. Now it's going to come up. The interest rates are going to be skyrocketing. You're going to pay double what you paid for payments on your house. Can you afford to pay double right now that what you're paying to live for rent or for mortgage? This is going to be devastating for the economy. So just the economy alone, if that's all that was going on, we'd have endless material to talk about. But here is Toronto Sun commentator talking about it, because he'll just do it a lot quicker. He's prepared to talk about it and more than me. So we'll be back right after this.
We've all heard how hard it is to get into the housing market, to buy a house for the first time, to get a mortgage. If you don't have family help, it's become virtually impossible for people under 40 to get into the housing market. But less well understood is the fact that it could become very soon difficult to stay in your home. If you already have a home, but you negotiated your mortgage before the interest rates shot through the roof because the Bank of Canada is trying to control inflation, well, when you go to renegotiate your mortgage, you may find that your payments go way up. In fact, Adam Chambers, a Conservative MP from Ontario, says he's seen mortgages where the rates went up 137%, more than double, because of the interest rate hikes that the Bank of Canada has brought in to control inflation. So you would think this is something that the government would want to talk about. But last Friday, Conservative and Bloc MPs at the House of Commons Finance Committee asked to have the Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, come and explain to them what the government's going to do to keep people in their homes once their mortgages become due. And guess what happened? The Liberals and their sock puppet friends in the NDP voted not to invite Freeland. She doesn't have to come and talk about it. The government doesn't have to explain what it's going to do to try and help people keep their mortgages current, stay in their homes when the mortgages come due. Equifax, one of the biggest credit research bureaus in Canada, already estimates that about 15% more people in Canada are missing credit card payments and car loan payments and loans on other items just to pay their mortgages. 15% more than we're doing that at the end of March of this year. That's only 4 or 5 months ago. And already 15% more are squeezed so badly that they're paying their mortgages, but they're not paying their credit card debt. The International Monetary Fund says Canada has the greatest number of high-risk mortgages of any industrialized country. And this is due to the Liberal government's overspending, its massive borrowing, its running up of the national debt, and the Bank of Canada's willingness to let them do that. The Bank of Canada acts now as though it was the great guardian against inflation. But it was the place that green-lighted the Liberals to spend hundreds of billions of dollars, not just on the pandemic, but on a great expansion of the federal government. The federal government is now 40% larger than it was when the Liberals came to power in 2015. It's 40% larger than it was when the Liberals came to power. And that kind of rapid expansion, expensive expansion, the average salary and perks for the average civil servant is $125,000 a year. And that kind of spending, the Bank of Canada says, oh, that's fine. Yeah, sure, you go ahead. No problem. You don't need to balance budgets. That's okay. It'll all work out in the end. They pretty much had the Prime Minister's attitude that, budgets balance themselves. It's okay. But now those sorts of chickens are coming home to roost because lots of people's mortgage payments, as they go now to renew their mortgages, their payments are going to double. And that will mean then that maybe 2/3 of their family income will go into their homes. And the rest will have to go to pay for the kids' school supplies, your groceries, if you have a dinner out, if you want to go to a movie. All of that is going to be imposed on just to pay your mortgage. And that's why there's a mortgage crisis that's potentially coming this fall. Are the Liberals concerned? I mean, they claimed when they shuffled the cabinet back in July that one of their highest priorities was getting housing affordable again. But yet, when the Commons Finance Committee wanted to ask Chrystia Freeland to come and explain what the government was going to do to keep people in their homes as their mortgages double, the Liberals said, no, we're not going to have her come along. That's how much they really care. It's all symbolism for them. It's all getting reelected. It doesn't matter what the real policy is. It doesn't matter what the damage is of their high inflation policies. It doesn't matter if lots of people lose their homes, as long as the Liberals get reelected. For Post Media, I'm Lauren Gunter.
Yeah, and again, back in the last, 2015, 2016, I was telling people, who are you going to vote for? I was asking, friends and that, who are you going to vote for? A lot of people say, we need a change. Harper, I don't like conservatives, or Harper's a cardboard cutout, which I think they had an argument there to some degree, that he has no personality. So they voted out the person that didn't have a personality, and they just needed a change. And I like the guy's hair. I like Justin Trudeau's hair, which was the main answer, by the way. I think about 80% of the people I talked to, and it was probably over 100 people I asked, said about 80% said his hair. That's why they voted for him. And I said, well, what is his politics? Like, what kind of things does he and his party stand for? Like, what are they going to do once they get in power? All right, he'll do a good job. He's fine. His dad was there, so he's got experience and whatever. So now, like he said, the chickens are coming home to roost. And when you understand what the party stands for and spending all the time, Liberals traditionally and historically spend, and conservatives historically cut and balance the budget. And so people aren't happy with that. They think, so it's a pendulum, though. You can't have one side too much or one side, any side swinging too far. But if you spend, and whose money are you spending? You're spending taxpayers' money. Who is paying for it? It's the taxpayers. So, and it's borrowed money that we're getting from Bank of Canada, and which is then paid to the World Bank's interest. So we're paying interest on the money that we're So the more money you give out, it's like having a credit card. And it's just not a good fiscal, they don't have good fiscal policies. And when Justin Trudeau was asked about the budget, he did honestly say the budget will balance itself. Can you imagine at home being asked that question? Hey, why are you spending this money or whatever? And you tell your spouse or whoever else is in charge of the funds in your household, oh, don't worry, money will come out of nowhere. Everything will work out. I can spend however I want. That's what the prime minister of our country said. So yeah. So here, and that's not all. So now watch this. We have ministers that are cozying up with China, given what's going on with the interference with our country. So another big thing is we don't have an ethics commissioner in Canada. The longest we've never had an ethics commissioner in Canada right now. And things are going on that need an ethics commissioner to kind of make sure people aren't breaking laws. And here's one example.
We all know that Canada's Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, has had some pretty wacky ideas. The eco-activist turned Liberal cabinet minister apparently has a new gig beyond just being Canada's Environment Minister. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Warren Kinsella and the Toronto Sun's Brian Lilley, who broke this very fascinating story, Brian, about our Environment Minister doing double duty for Canada and China.
That's right. He is the executive vice chairperson of an organization. I'll give you the short form. It's the CCICED. It's an organization of the Ministry of Environment and Ecology for the government of China. So this is the Communist Party of China's Environment Ministry's operation. They set up what they call a think tank. Now, the vice chair is China's Environment Minister. The full chair of this organization is a gentleman who is first vice premier of the People's Republic of China. He's just behind President Xi on the pecking order within the Communist Party of China. This is something that shocked me. I got this because Guilbeault gave an exclusive interview to the National Observer, which is an activist environmental publication. Fine, fill your boots. But they were bragging about Guilbeault going to China and trying to find allies. And he's going to this meeting. And I said, well, who's this group? Went to their website, clicked on the who we are, and up pops Guilbeault's picture as the executive vice chair. I've asked the Prime Minister's office for comment. They said, we're not going to comment. We're leaving this to the minister's office. And so far at this point, they haven't gotten back to me. But to me, this is just outrageous. This is beyond diplomacy and going to talk to the Chinese government about environmental issues. He's an advisor to the Chinese government while serving in Justin Trudeau's cabinet as the environment minister.
Warren, who could forget the Chinese government refers to Justin Trudeau as little potato? And who could also forget, of course, that Justin Trudeau has an admiration for China's basic dictatorship. So should it come as much of a surprise that his now environment minister is cozying up to China in this regard? And apparently we're supposed to forget about all the electoral interference, the interference in our democracy, the kidnapping and the imprisonment of 2 Canadians. And we're supposed to forget about all of that, apparently.
No, we shouldn't. The Chinese regime illegally imprisoned 2 Canadian citizens. They actively, on an ongoing basis, and repeatedly interfered in our democracy, in our elections. They are one of the worst abusers of human rights in the world. Mm-hmm. Leaving aside their environmental record, the absurdity of our Minister of the Environment being the executive vice chairman, quote unquote, of a vehicle controlled by the Chinese regime, who kills 1.7 million of its own citizens every year with air pollution alone. It is absurd. You cannot serve 2 masters. You cannot be in 2 places at once. And you particularly cannot be associated with, in the way that Guilbeault is, a hostile foreign power. They are not an ally of Canada. They are an adversary of Canada, verging on an enemy of Canada. This is unacceptable, and Brian's scoop is really important. And I find it very interesting that the Prime Minister's office has refused, in this case, to come to the defense of Guilbeault. I think that tells you something very interesting, and it's that other people within the government are not happy about this situation.
Brian, I'm curious how this would even work for Guilbeault. I mean, we in our country, successive prime ministers have signed us on to global climate pacts all for year after year after year. We're beholden to these things. Canadians do their part. They want to ban everything in our lives and put us back into mud huts and us rubbing sticks together to light fire and heat our homes. But we as Canadians, like we do our part, and we respect that. We all know that in terms of the global emissions that are happening, it really is China and India have to come to the table in order for things to really move the needle. So couldn't it be argued that this is a way to get China on board? I think it's a naive view because China doesn't agree to anything unless they want to. But what's your take on that?
I think that would be a completely naive view. It is the one that the minister and his supporters and the true and non-supporters online are putting forward. Well, we need to engage China. We need to get them to reduce their emissions. They're not reducing their emissions, not by anyone's standard. So for my column, I used our World in Data, well-respected international data organization. It's run by Oxford University. And I looked at the most recent data that we have. China's carbon emissions go up about 2 billion tons a year. That's more than double Canada's 777 million tons a year. So they're going up more than double. Last year, and we don't have figures, full official figures for last year, but last year they were building 2 coal-fired power plants per month. So if this guy's the executive chairman and China's building 2 coal-fired plants per week, sorry, not per month, per week, how does that square? He's going around and badgering Canada's premiers that you've got to clean up your electricity grid, even though ours is 85% clean. And the places that aren't, like Saskatchewan and Alberta, where they have to rely on coal because they don't have hydroelectricity, they're investing in solar. They're investing in carbon capture and storage technology. And he's still being antagonistic to them, but he's cozying up to China, which is going up by more than double what Canada emits in a full year. It is beyond ridiculous. But it is something that this government will try and get away with and just say, well, if you don't believe in this, I guess you don't believe in climate change. That's not the answer. We're cozying up to a hostile dictatorship with a horrible environmental record.
Warren, last word to you. I think that that's such an important aspect to this is, plays into why the PMO is probably not responding. But this is just one more thing that they think they can, quote unquote, get away with, which is, happened so many times with the Trudeau Liberals. They've done some pretty egregious and questionable things, and they just get away with it. Is this going to be yet another instance of that, or do we see some sort of pressure for Guilbeault to say no, maybe I should be part of this, or is this just going to carry on until we basically have a new government?
Well, where's the public inquiry into Chinese election interference?
Exactly.
Like, where's that? Where did that go? So no, I don't take this government seriously on this issue. I think it's now become evident. We now know why the Trudeau government has refused to go along with Pierre Poilievre's suggestion and the suggestion of others that we have a foreign agent registry, because they may have one of their own cabinet ministers on it. So, it was obviously a view of the Trudeau government going back to 2013 when he was seeking the Liberal Party leadership that there needed to be engagement with China. And I didn't agree with them, but, I guess their argument was, well, we need to do this to offset, the influence of other superpowers, maybe the United States. But it hasn't worked. The two Michaels, as you pointed out, and interference in our elections in 2019 and 2021, and on and on and on. Engagement with China in the way that Stephen Guilbeault is doing right now, today, has not worked. It has actually made the situation worse. So, this guy needs to be told to quit, or he needs to quit the cabinet, but he needs to pick a lane because you can't work for Canada and China at the same time.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think. Put a note in the comments below. And go to the TorontoSun.com and hit that subscribe button. You're going to find coverage on stories you will not find anywhere else.
Okay, and again, on this show, you're going to hear views that you're not going to hear on mainstream media in Sudbury anyways. And you might get some of these stories where you're at on your own or whatever, but on radio, you're not going to hear any of this. You're just going to hear one side. So there's always two sides to everything, and that's why we share that. And more the mainstream media is demonizing anyone else who has any views other than what they have. And you saw that with the Maui press conferences, right? With all of the leaders who were in charge of handling the devastation. And it's really unacceptable. And they were telling the citizens to not listen to people on the internet, that they were the authority and you need to listen to them. And after all of the deaths and after all of they weren't talking with the media in Maui at all. And so, here you have, someone who I really appreciate as a comedian, basically talking about it and shedding some light on it. Again, comedy sometimes teaches us whereas, just something else can't. So one of my favorite comedians here is going to go through it. This is JP, and he's going to be talking about the handling of the Maui incident and others as well. But we'll be back right after this. A little bit of humor on a very serious subject, by the way, and that's oftentimes what comedians do.
And for future reference, anytime the same media simultaneously uses the same discrediting terminology that they used on Hunter Biden's laptop, Epstein being killed in his jail cell, and the lab leak reality on something, you can be sure that what they're discrediting is in fact nothing but baseless information that most likely poses a danger to people. And it's also probably a threat to our democracy. So that's what they're doing with Maui. Certainly erases any suspicion if you're letting us control your thoughts the way you should. But what do we, the thought police, have to say to people like truth seeker Alex Zeck, who points out about the Maui wildfires? Fire hydrants were dry. Fire marshals were out of town that night. The mayor and governor were out of town. People who were trying to evacuate were told it was not time to evacuate and to turn around back into the fire. No cops with bullhorns. No firefighters in the streets. The most robust emergency siren system in the world did not sound. No warnings whatsoever. Anomalies with reported wind directions that don't scientifically add up. School was canceled. Children were home while parents worked. Hundreds of children burned alive. A perfect circle of fire around Lahaina. Molten metal next to intact trees. Media reporting fractions of real numbers. New insurance policies taken out on Lahaina before the fires. Wild how all this new uninhabitable land that only big developers can afford to clean up opened up for the plans of turning Maui into a smart island with billionaire funding. Well, to these completely baseless points, I say this. In the words of our great president, no comment. And rounding out today's mental manipulation, you may have heard Oliver Anthony's new song, Rich Men North of Richmond. It's become the #1 song in the country and is closing in on 20 million views. It's being heralded as the voice of the working class people who are sick and tired of the corruption in DC infringing on their lives. But, spoiler alert, that's all misinformation. Our fact checkers have concluded that everything mentioned in his song is in fact baseless. What the correct thinking is that Oliver Anthony is a far-right extremist, and anyone who likes his music is also an extremist. Racist, transphobe, homophobe, misogynist. His words are literally violence. There's an old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. Not on our watch. We're here to help you get weak enough so that words will break your bones. The more you watch us, your captors who truly do care about you, the more you're helped by being infected with what's basically osteoporosis for your mind. If you're at a point where words do break your bones, then you get an A+ for obedience. That's it for tonight's news. Thank you for watching. Now go get a couple dozen more boosters.
So that's JP Sears, comedian, yes, and comedians often have different angles to look at things to make us think, different ways. And there's a lot of questions about what's going on with these fires, and I don't think it's very straightforward. They had, arguably the best system for a warning system in the world, and boasted about that. And they were turned off, didn't work, weren't used. So go figure on that one. There's just so many things. He listed them. So you can look into all those things yourself. It's good to at least think for yourself, hear things, and not be afraid to hear something that doesn't already exist in your brain, and contemplate it and say, I wonder if that has any validity to it whatsoever, and look at things and learn things. Try new foods you haven't tried before, and think of something you haven't thought of before, and grow and be a better person for it. But thanks. That's all the time we have for the show today. Thanks for being with us. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place, God willing. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.